As we've reported tonight, there are two scandals now rocking the nation's capital. Both center on this president and his administration. They've even managed to upset the liberal national media to the point that they actually might return to their roles as watchdogs rather than lapdogs that they've become under the Obama administration. The president's refusal to tell the American people exactly what happened in Benghazi and why is simply outrageous. And now we learn that the administration's Internal Revenue Service has engaged in political reprisal, political targeting, and created an ideological enemies list. It was only 4 years ago that the president joked about the IRS going after his enemies in his commencement speech at Arizona State University. Listen.
I learned never again to pick another team over the Sun Devils in my NCAA brackets. It won't happen again. President Crow and the Board of Regents will soon learn about being audited by the IRS.
Well, irony of ironies, that was exactly 4 years ago today, May 13th, 2009. And there are more ironies. An IRS Inspector General report that couldn't be completed for some reason before the election last year has now been leaked, at least in parts. And that report reveals that the IRS was targeting organizations applying for tax-exempt status at least as early as March 2010. The IRS targeting organizations that use the phrases, for example, Tea Party, Patriots, 9/12. In that initial phase of targeting, 10 Tea Party organizations were targeted. By June of 2011, the IRS had expanded that criteria used to scrutinize applications to include groups working on issues like government debt, taxes, and groups who were critical, God forbid, of how the country is being run, end quote. By this time, the IRS had flagged more than 100 Tea Party-related applications, and senior IRS officials were aware of it. Now remember the leak Friday and how the IRS was initially blaming low-level employees in distant offices for the scandal. Well, the Inspector General report shows that Lois Lerner, she's the head of the IRS division that oversees tax-exempt organizations, knew by June of 2011 that those conservative groups were being targeted. Lerner instructed agents to change their criteria for flagging groups, but that lasted until, well, all the way up to January of last year, when the IRS said it would start looking at any political organizations involved in, quote, limiting, expanding government, or, for example, quote, education on the Constitution and Bill of Rights, end quote, and social economic reform movement. Good grief. Just 2 months later, in March of last year, then Commissioner of the Internal Revenue Service, Doug Shulman, a Democrat appointed by George Bush, testified before Congress that the IRS wasn't doing exactly what it was doing.
Can you give us assurances that the IRS is not targeting particular groups based on political leanings?
First, let me start by saying yes, I can give you assurances. As you know, we pride ourselves on being a non-political, nonpartisan organization. And so what's been happening has been the normal back and forth that happens with the IRS.
Shulman's term expired last November. The IRS scandal broke 3 days ago. Now there are at least 2 congressmen calling for the resignation of acting IRS Commissioner Stephen Miller, who served as Deputy Commissioner for Services and Enforcement when the targeting occurred under Shulman, and the House Ways and Means Committee Chairman, Congressman Dave Camp, as I said, has launched an investigation and is holding a hearing this coming Friday. He has demanded all communications within the IRS, and he wants them by Wednesday.